Chord here with Kashmir from Led Zeppelin, of course, from the Physical Graffiti album. This is a not too difficult tune to play. I would definitely consider it an intermediate tune, but it is in the classic DADGAD tuning. So what that means is that the sixth string is tuned down a whole step to D, and then the A, the D, and the G all stay standard. And then the B string, the second string, is tuned down a whole step to A, and then the first string is also tuned down a whole step to D. And that puts you in DADGAD tuning. Pretty cool and sweet sounding tuning. So let's get started with it. Here's Kashmir. So the first thing we're doing is we're strumming the A string, the open D string, and the fretted G string. So we've got the A string at the 5th fret, open D string, and then the G string at the 2nd fret. And Jimmy just plays that with alternate strokes. And you want to do that twice in a row. Then swing up and hit the open 6th string. So down, up, down, down, up, down, down. Then what we do is this note moves up a half step to the 3rd fret, and it's going to continue moving chromatically all the way to the 5th. It'll go 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's best to change your fingers up for this just to make it a little bit more comfortable to play. So I switch to the index finger at the 3rd fret on the G string, and my ring finger is at the 5th fret on the A string. Exact same rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, strike. Then raise up the G string to the 4th fret now. Keep your ring finger where it was. Keeping your ring finger at the 5th fret on the A string, and I like to use my pinky to now catch the 5th fret on the G string. Last one is straight octaves. Switch to your 1st finger at the 5th fret on the A string now, and you can use your pinky to fret the 7th fret on the G string, or you can use your ring finger, whichever you prefer. But there it's just, so we have okay, now after you've played the octave, 1, 2, 3, come back to the original chord and do 3 there as well. Strike the open string and then keep moving from there. That's kind of the trick of this. The way I look at it, and the way I've always explained it to my students, is you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you can almost look at the octaves as the riff starting over again, but the octaves replacing the first 3 strokes of that original chord. That's one way to look at it, and I think it's easiest to sort of digest it that way. And of course, you'll do that several times for the vocal and everything else. And then as we make our way into the next part, it enters right after this chord right here, the one you're playing with your ring finger at the 5th fret on the A string and your pinky at the 5th fret on the G string. So you'll come off of it like this. So let's talk about that part. This is also pretty easy to play, and you can see from the tab that it's really just the same chord shape or the same pattern being moved, descending down the fretboard. So for this, we're basically just using the first four strings, E, B, G, and D. But I'll talk about how I enter into this part once we get this together. So for me, I'm using my third finger, my ring finger, at the 12th fret on the first string, skip a string, second finger on the 12th fret on the G string, and that's really it, okay? And strike it from the D string down, and then replace this finger with your first finger at the 11th fret. And that's just a shape or a pattern that he's going to move around. Move it down a whole step, step and a half, whole step, another whole step, and then we play the three notes, the single note line. And I think alternate picking is good for that, but that's not a rule. But if you like it that way, I think it sounds a little smoother and a little rounder. Now, what I like to do with that part is when I come off of the main theme, I like to hit all the strings as I do it. And just let them ring through, just like droning strings. I think that sounds kind of nice. And then just hang with the first four strings as you descend the fretboard. I think that sounds kind of cool, just that droning sound in there. And you'll notice that one of those is played a little bit staccato. It's the one at the 7th fret. You want to pop those, make them nice and staccato to capture that vibe on the recording. So before we go there, though, you'll notice that when I finished that second part, you jump back to this particular shape right here, the 3rd fret on the G string and the 5th fret on the A string. So that's actually the second chord in line of the main theme, and you just follow through from there. So, as you get back into that second part again, you can, I trust you can pick up the arrangement from the recording. I think everybody's heard this song a lot, let's say. You come off of this part. So you can see that on the tab pretty clearly. And again, I think alternate picking is best for that, but again, that's not a dyed-in-the-wool rule, so feel free to do whatever you want. You can do all downstrokes if you want to. Either way is totally fine. But the main thing is you play the single note line, and that's sort of a standard A chord shape, but be sure to only play the A string, the D string, and the G string in your right hand. And then your ring finger comes up to the 4th fret on the D string and back. Very staccato, right? So a lot of muting left and right hand, whichever way you prefer to do it, but as long as you got the chords nice and tight and just popping out, right? And you'll see this played a lot of times like with a standard power chord. That's totally fine if you want to do that. 7 on the D string, 9 on the G string, and just slide it right back down to the chord. But I like to capture those higher notes that you hear with the strings and everything. That sounds kind of cool. Just take that and slide the whole thing. You can see it on the tab, but I'm barring at the 7th fret with my first finger, and then my ring finger is on the 9th fret on the G string, bottom 4 strings, and just slide the whole thing. And then eventually back to into the outro of the song. And basically, even though these don't look like G's and A's, or not much like G's and A's, it is essentially a G chord in this tuning to an A chord. So let me show you how I'm fingering those chords. So for what is essentially that G chord, I finger it like this. I use my last 3 fingers, and I'm fretting the 6th string at the 5th fret, and then the 2nd string and the 1st string also at the 5th fret. And you just want to play this loose, you know, strumming, get a little variety in there so it doesn't sound too monotonous, you know. And the A chord is fretted almost like a regular A chord. We've got the 2nd fret on the D string, the 2nd fret on the G string, and then the 2nd fret on the 1st string. There you go. And again, you're just floating those 2 chords back and forth, okay? But there is a line, an ascending scale that you hear on the original recording, and I'm going to include that because they made a big deal out of that when they played it live. They used to just jump on that line and pound it out, okay? So I want to show you that as well. So you can float along with these chords for a little bit first and then jump into the line. So that's a pretty cool line. So let me just map out the single notes of it, and then what I'm doing is just bashing through the strings and kind of letting them ring out. And live you would really hear Jimmy emphasize that major 3rd. And then once you've landed that chord, you can kind of mess about with it a little bit. Using the B string, the bottom E string as well. You can also play it like this. Playing that A chord there if you like that instead. Let me do that slow again. Last 2 notes shift to the G string 2, 4, and then form that A chord. Either way sounds really cool. What I like to do when I play that, because of the DADGAD tuning offering so much resonance, is just bash away at the strings that are below it. Now, another little cool bit that I want to mention so that it doesn't get forgotten is in the second verse. This is where they bring it in. Is right after Robert Plant sings, "Sounds caress my ear." So it's coming off of the main riff. That's a cool little part, and admittedly, the way I just played it is probably a bit difficult if you're an intermediate player. So I've got it tabbed out for you the way Page actually plays it with the band. Go right back to the first chord and keep ascending through the progression from there. But admittedly, you don't hear those high notes coming through. But that's okay. That's the way he played it live. But for those of you who are six-string adventurous, you can try this. So I'm using my two middle fingers to pull this off, and they are both playing the exact same fret each time. We're just going to move it around like so. So I'm fretting at the 7th fret, the E string, the B string remains open, the G string is muted out by this finger, and then the second finger is also playing the 7th fret on the D string. 7, 6, 7, 9, 7, 6, 7, 4. And that's it. Kashmir, I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and we'll see you real soon.